Welcome, 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 my sensitive friends. Jenn Berkelman's here, coach to sensitive souls who struggle with the overwhelm and emotional fatigue that can come with being highly sensitive. All right, so I'm a little late today, but I'm here for my daily video. I am here. Today I wanted to talk about how this one thing can lead to both overwhelm and fatigue in sensitive souls. And that is resistance. Okay. Sorry, I was just eating some cereal. Okay. So resistance, and you might be asking, what do you mean by resistance? So resistance, definition, here we go, is the refusal to accept or comply with something, the attempt to prevent something by action or argument. The ability, that doesn't apply as much. Okay, so with that definition in mind, what do I mean by resistance? So as sensitive souls, we, whether HSPs, highly sensitive people, or empaths. So empaths being that we feel and can feel the energy of others in our own body, energy, emotion, physicality. With highly sensitive people, being so aware and so attuned to the needs of others, they can feel such a state of empathy for others that they also can take on those emotions of others. So constantly doing that on a daily basis means that we're having a lot of emotionality in a day, especially if we're connecting to a lot of people in a day, friends, family, and that is going to naturally bring things up in us, because we are very sensitive to that. We are also, especially highly sensitive people, are very prone to emotion, right? Very deep emotion. We feel very deeply. We're very, very deeply emotional people. And for a lot of us, we've experienced in our time rejection of that sensitivity, of that emotionality in our lifetime, being told we're too much, we're too sensitive, too emotional. Hello, good evening, welcome, welcome, welcome everyone coming in today. I'm talking about resistance and how that can lead to overwhelm and fatigue in sensitive souls. So, where was I? So, we're often told in our lifetime by family, friends, people in our life that we're too sensitive, we're too emotional. And that might not be just someone saying it, although I've had someone tell me that, that I was too emotional, too sensitive. I've had that. But it can also be in when they shut you down and they ignore you, or all these other things, right? Reactions to us being very passionate or being very emotional in a way that's not supportive and feels awful, right? And in that, we're going to start to, we learn to shut down feeling uncomfortable, like that feeling, right? Because in that moment, we're not being supported, and we're being shut down. And so over time, what we can do is when we start to feel these things, when we start to feel emotions, we resist it, right? Because it's uncomfortable, especially the uncomfortable emotions, but even happiness, okay? Happiness and joy can be very hard for people to feel. And I'll tell you why. Because when in our past, we've had an experience where had a moment where we were really happy, followed by something that was maybe traumatic or very hard. And if that happens more than once, we may develop this thinking that when things start to get good and we start to feel happy, that it's that waiting for that other shoe to drop. So when we start to feel happy, we may also shut that down too. So resistance is when we resist anything in our current experience. So, and we may not know that we're doing it. It may be so automatic that, if we were shut down in anger a lot as a child, we may just automatically push that down. So that when we're in anger, when something happens to make us angry, we don't even realize that we're angry until later, or it might take a little while. Be like, oh yeah, I am feeling angry. And so resistance is just when we resist anything in our current experience. And you can imagine that our body being energetic, and there's a flow to that energy, that if we're resisting anything, it's going to impede that flow. And so that is going to affect our energy and potentially cause buildup in certain places. And not just that, but how exhausting is it to use all this energy to resist what we're feeling, to push it down and push it away? Like, just imagine the amount of energy that we're using, not knowingly, in pushing away something that's trying to come through. And so if we have lots of these things that we're resisting and blocking, and we're pushing it down, that's tiring. And so what I've learned over time to help with all of the conditioning around resistance and around pushing away the uncomfortable is developing a regular practice of sitting with what comes up. And this is helpful in the end of the day, of developing a practice of sitting with what had come up in the day. Because there are going to be times, if I'm at work all day and I'm working with people all day, talking to a person, a coworker or a patient may bring up something in me. And I don't necessarily have time to sit and process that. I can acknowledge it in the moment, bring awareness to it, but I have to continue on with my job. And so I don't necessarily have time to deal with it in that moment. And that's okay. But if I can sit down later in my day and give presence to what I was feeling and really give that space to give space to what was, being felt and experienced, then instead of resisting it, I am now bringing it in and giving it space to be felt so that it can unravel and it can be released. And so I think this is very important for highly sensitive people and empaths because of our sensitivity, because of what the effect of coming into contact with people all the time, all day. Like if you're at home, like right now, if you're working remotely, or if you work from home or whatnot, if there's some way that you're not encountering people during the day, you may not feel as affected by this, but you're still going to likely come into contact with people. I mean, we're in different times with the virus and everything going on. But normally in our day-to-day life, we're going to be coming into contact with people and being on social media, right? If anyone, I personally don't watch the news, but it doesn't mean that I don't hear from other people, right? And so that has an effect on us too. We are very empathetic. We are very sensitive to we care deeply, and we want to make a difference. And, all of that in a day-to-day, compounded day-to-day thing, if we're not sitting with the stuff that comes up, imagine how that affects the body over time. And not to just that, but imagine, I just lost my train of thought. But you can imagine how that can be tiring, like how that can put a weight on the body. And it's not to say, I want to be very clear in that every single day we do the best that we can do every single day. And this is not to say that you should do this every day. It is not to say that you're doing anything wrong. We are all doing the best we can in any given situation. But I wanted to share this because as a highly sensitive person and an empath, one of the most profound things that has helped me has been giving space to my current experience on a daily basis. And what I mean by that is taking time to get quiet and to bring awareness to my body, bring awareness to my emotions, bring awareness to what's going on in my mind, and to give that space, journal if I need to journal, meditate, and just get quiet and sit with what I'm feeling. Because what I was doing before was constantly pushing things away, and I was just like this corked bottle of carbonation that was shook all the time, and there was no pressure release. There was nothing letting it out, and that had a profound effect on my health and my wellness and how I felt on a daily basis. And now, knowing what I know, I can just see that in constantly, and it was because I didn't know, but not giving awareness and not giving space to what I was feeling and just pushing it away was very exhausting and had a toll on my body. And so that is why I wanted to share this today, because I feel it could be beneficial. And there are different ways that you can get quiet. Go sit in nature and just kind of sit and notice how you feel. You can journal, you can meditate, walking meditations. Ideally, it's a time where we're quiet, so not necessarily listening to music or outside things that are going to bring our attention away from ourselves. But ultimately, you find what works for you. And we all have different ways of doing that. So yes, I wanted to share that. I hope that it was helpful. If you have any questions, comments, I'd love to hear them. Please share this if you think it would be beneficial to anyone. And if this is something you want more information around the idea, if you're new to giving space to, not sure how to do this process, I do have meditations on YouTube that kind of take you through that process of bringing your awareness to your current experience. And I also offer my soul coaching sessions, which are guided meditations, and it's an intuitively guided thing where we bring in your current experience and sit with it together. So if that's something you're interested in, send me a DM saying interested and we can talk. But anyways, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful evening, and much love to all of you.